Hello dear students, today we are going to start a new chapter, and the name of this chapter is The Snake and the Mirror. So, let me tell you, student, this is a humorous story which in fact revolves around the theme of human arrogance and fears, which in fact affect the people. This chapter in fact is also all about self love. Self love is a kind of thing which is found in everywhere. In fact, in this chapter, the same love has been shown with greater intensity when self love is not in human but also in animals. So, how in fact self absorption or self love affects everyone, that has been projected in this chapter. So basically, this chapter is the story of a homeopath doctor who is in fact struggling with his poverty, and of course, since he is a newcomer, so that is why even he does not have good practices as well. Nevertheless, he is somewhat arrogant about his looks. He in fact is a kind of man who gets absorbed about his own handsomeness, and then he makes several plans to make himself more handsome. Then in fact he gets stricken in a problem, and eventually he is able to come out of that problem because of self absorption. Fine, so this is the story of this chapter, this is the theme of this chapter. So this is slightly funny chapter is there. Let's start it systematically. The Snake and the Mirror. So has a snake ever coiled itself around any part of your body? A full-blooded cobra. All of us fell silent. So this was a question which was asked by a man who was in the company of his friends. So he asked this question, has a snake ever coiled itself around any part of your body? A full-blooded cobra. The question came from the homeopath. So this question was asked by the same homeopath doctor. The topic came up when we were discussing snakes. We listened attentively as the doctor continued with his tale. He continued his story, and at that time this question was aroused. It was a hot summer night, about 10 o'clock. I had my meal at the restaurant and returned to my room. I heard a noise from above. As I opened the door, the sound was familiar one. He heard a known sound, familiar sound. One could say that the rats and I shared the room. Anyone, would say that actually sound was not of rat. Both of them shared the same room. He is bringing the humorous element here. He is saying that both of them shared the same room. It means his room was full of rats. I took out my box of matches and lighted the kerosene lamp on the table. Fine, so he lighted the lamp. The house was not electrified. Fine, electric connection wasn't there at his home. It was a small rented room. He was living in a rented room. It means even the house was not his own. I had just set up medical practice, and my earnings were meager. Meager means little, small. Since it was just the starting period of his practice of homeopathy doctor, so that was the reason his income was very small. I had about 60 rupees in my suitcase. So he had a very small amount of 60 rupees. Along with some shirts and dhotis, I also owned one solitary. Solitary means lonely black coat. He had only one black colored coat, which I was then wearing. And he was wearing the same black coat at that time. I took off my black coat. I removed my black coat. White shirt, not so white vest. And his vest was not so white. Alright, vest was somewhat yellowish, and hung them up. And he hung them on a nail, on a peg. I opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room. So this was outer room with one wall facing the open yard. So, one was in front of open yard. It had a tiled roof with long supporting gables. So, gable you can see in this picture, this triangle shape. What front side is called gables. So, beams were there. These are called beams or like pillars. So, pillars were there which were taking the support of these gables that rested on the beam over the wall. There was no ceiling. Ceiling was not there on gable. There was a regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. So since beam did not have any ceiling and there was an opening on account of not having any ceiling, so this was the reason there was frequent, in and out of the rats. Rats in fact visited his house quite oftenly. They came quite oftenly because there was open area to come in. I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. Fine, so he lay his bed and pulled it close to the wall. I lay down, but I could not sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda for little air. So he thought to intake fresh air, but the wind god seemed to have taken time off. But it looked even on that day, wind god was on holiday. He was on holiday, symbolically saying that on that particular day even wind was not blowing. Alright, it was very dry, very suffocating because even wind was not blowing. I went back into the room and sat down on the chair. Okay, I opened a box beneath the table and took out a book. What was the name of the book? The Materia Medica. So of course it was a book based on medicine, and the name of the book was Materia Medica. I opened it at the table on which stood the lamp, and he placed the same book on that table where lamp was there, and a large mirror. A small comb lay beside the mirror, and what he saw that a small sized comb was also kept there. One feels tempted to look into a mirror when it is near. It's very obvious. It's a human nature, student. Whenever we are in front of mirror, we have to peep into it. We have to glare at it. We have to see how we are looking. If we are looking okay, it's alright. Otherwise, we always try to make ourselves more presentable. We in fact ruffle our fingers through our hair, then make 4 and 5 weird faces to decide which one is the most suitable for to wear on the face. And of course we try to follow different gestures, expression. So mirror is very tempting, very lucrative, attractive. Alright, it's very difficult to avoid mirror if you are in front of it. So the very same thing took place with him as well. He was in front of mirror, he got tempted to have a look of himself. So what he did, it is near when I took a look. In those days, I was a great admirer of beauty. So he was admirer, of his own beauty, of his own handsomeness, and I believed in making myself look handsome. Since he was a youngster, so of course youngsters are more cautious about their looks, and so was he. He always tried to, make himself more presentable, more handsome. I was unmarried and he was a bachelor, and I was a doctor on the top of that doctor. Alright, so it was a perfect combination, a well demanded combination, a doctor and especially on the top of unmarried doctor. So I felt I had to make my presence felt. He thought, to be more presentable. I picked up the comb and ran it through my hair and adjusted the parting. So he adjusted the parting of his hair so that it looked straight and neat. He made straight and neat parting of his hair. Again I heard that sound from above. Once again the same sound came from above. I took a close look at my face in the mirror, but he did not distract his attention, from the ongoing process of watching himself. So now he had a closer look of his personality, of his face. I made an important decision What it was I would shave daily and grow a thin mustache. So he decided to, add some features to his handsomeness. And number one thing was to grow a mustache. Alright, he decided to grow a thin mustache, and he thought that growing mustache would make him more handsome. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor. He was a bachelor and doctor, and this is, of course, well demanded in society. Every suitor wants to have this combination, doctor, bachelor, doctor, because this medical practice is guarantee of immense money. So that is why, if any bachelor doctor is found by the people who are looking for a suitable match of their daughters, they almost jump over him. So this was the reason he thought that he needed to polish his handsomeness. I looked into the mirror and smiled. It was an attractive smile. I made another earth shaking decision. What it was? I would always keep that attractive smile on my face. He thought that he would always smile. He would always smile because smile made him more handsome, attractive. So this was the reason he thought to have this attractive smile on his face ever, to look more handsome. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor too on top of it. Alright, again came that noise from above, and once again he heard the same sound from above. I got up, paced up and down the room. Up and down, students, left and right as well. Up and down does not mean to go up and down always. Yes, up and down means to up and down as well, but up and down means left and right as well. Otherwise, how could he have gone up and down in his room? Then another lovely thought struck me. What is struck? Second form, strike, hit me. I would marry. He decided now he would marry, and I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and good medical practice. And he became very clever here. Alright, he thought that he would choose a doctor to get married, that doctor who would have plenty money, a rich doctor, and of course she would have good practices also, like a very renowned doctor of society. He would marry her. Alright, so how clever he was. She had to be fat, and one more additional demand. His wife had to be fat. What was the reason of her being fat? For a valid reason. This had a genuine reason. If I made some mistake and needed to run away, she should not be able to run after me and catch me. So can you imagine this fanciful, thoughts of his mind? He in fact wanted to have fat wife to dodge her, to shun her, because if he made any mistake, she would never be able to catch him in this way. He would never be beaten by his wife. So this was the reason he decided to have a fat wife for himself. I got up, we did it. With such thought in my mind, I restarted my seat in the chair in front of the table. There were no more sounds from above. Now sound was not coming. Suddenly there was a dull thud, as if a rubber tube had fallen to, and suddenly he heard a dull thud sound, harsh sound, thud sound. It was similar kind of sound which is created when a rubber tube falls on the floor. So that kind of thudding sound was there. Now let's see ground. Surely nothing to worry about. He was still relaxed, very calm, very composed. He thought, it must have been rats, doodling around, or in fact jumbling around. So that was he avoided completely. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. Once again, he thought to take a look of his own handsomeness. No sooner had I turned that a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair, twisted back over the chair and landed on my shoulder. And the snake came directly on his shoulder. The snake landing on me and my turning were simultaneous. Simultaneous means which in fact take place at the same time. So both the things took place exactly at the same time. What? He took a turn and in front of him there was a snake. So both the things took place exactly at the same time. I didn't jump. I didn't tremble. I didn't cry. So he became completely motionless. He didn't do anything at all. There was no time to do any such thing. Fine. The snake slithered, moved along my shoulder, and coiled and circled around my left arm above my elbow. So above his elbow, snake coiled himself around his shoulder. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. So hood, when a snake makes its head, that's what is called hood. So now the hood of the snake was very close to narrator's face and was so close it was just 3-4 inches away from my face. Means a little provocation might have caused a catastrophic result for the narrator. The snake, on account of being provoked by any wrong activity of the narrator, might have stung him. So this was the reason the writer decided to be motionless completely. Fine, student. So we'll keep this much in this video. Little chapter is there. The remaining part of this chapter would be covered in next video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a nice day.